Blood clotting, this is lecture 2, and we'll try and understand today conversion of prothrombin. Reaction stage 2. Conversion of prothrombin. We are abbreviating it as PT through thrombin. And how does it take place? It takes place in presence of factor 10A. We have factor 5A and calcium. So these three act as prothrombin activator. Okay, so it is necessary that to generate factor 10A, it can be generated by both extrinsic and intrinsic pathway. 5A and calcium ion is there in the blood. So this will convert prothrombin to thrombin. So what is prothrombin in the first place? Prothrombin is a zymogen in active form. It is 66 kilodalton single polypeptide. And it is made up of 582 amino acids. 582 amino acids, right? So what happens? Let's say if I draw the picture of single polypeptide, this is N-terminus, amino acid number 1, amino acid number 582. This is C-terminus, right? So what does prothrombin activator do? Prothrombin activator will cleave a bond between amino acid number 274 and 275. This is amino acid number 274. So amino acid number 274 is arginine. And amino acid number 275 is threonine. So the bond between the two is broken. Bond between the two is broken. So what do you get? You get two fragments. You get an N-terminus (274) amino acid fragment, and you get a remaining fragment. This is now become amino acid number 1. This is the new N-terminus, and this is C-terminus. So this is about 32 kilodalton. Then it undergoes further proteolysis. Bond between arginine 323 and isoleucine 324 is broken. So what do you get? You get, this is called as fragment A. This is called as fragment B. And these two are joined by an interchain disulfide bridge. Okay, this is active thrombin. This is how prothrombin is converted to active thrombin. It is made up of two fragments, fragment A and fragment B, right? So fragment A is something like 49 amino acids, and then the remaining amino acids, right? And these two are held together by an interchain disulfide bridge between the two fragments. So this is 32 kilodalton active protein called thrombin. 32 kilodalton active protein which has been generated from 66 kilodalton inactive precursor called prothrombin. And who catalyzes, who mediates this conversion? It is mediated by these three, 10A, 5A and calcium ions, right? Now, what was found out is that vitamin K, it plays a very vital role. Vitamin K plays a very vital role in clotting mechanism. So whenever there is a big surgery, major surgery is taking place, at that time, before and the patient is given vitamin A, because vitamin plays a very important role in clotting. It aids in clotting mechanism. Okay. So what could be the reason? So what was found out is that towards the end terminus of inactive precursor prothrombin, this is the inactive precursor prothrombin and this is end terminus, you have close to 10 successive glutamate residues. Please understand where I am talking about. I am talking about they are there at the N terminus. N terminus, 10 successive glutamate residues are there in the prothrombin. Okay. And this glutamate is converted, let me draw it for you. This glutamate is converted to gamma carboxy glutamate. In presence of a vitamin K dependent enzyme system. This glutamate is converted to gamma carboxy glutamate in presence of vitamin K dependent enzyme system. This glutamate structure, if you have to draw, let me draw a structure for you. This is glutamate and this is converted to gamma carboxy glutamate, means so you have C, this is called as gamma carboxy glutamate. This is alpha carbon, this is beta carbon, and this is gamma carbon. So you have an additional carboxyl group. So you are adding one more negative charge. This is called as gamma carboxy glutamate. The issue is this glutamate is a weak chelator of calcium. And this gamma carboxy glutamate is a strong chelator of calcium. Okay, so now, gamma carboxy glutamate, it can chelate calcium strongly. And in this way, it helps in anchoring of this prothrombin. Anchoring means attachment. Anchoring means attachment. Anchoring or attachment of prothrombin to the phospholipids of the membranes at this site of the wound. And that is how it brings prothrombin in closer proximity to factor 10A and factor 5A. Okay, because now we have just learned that factor 10A and factor 5A are responsible for converting prothrombin to thrombin. And for its conversion, it is necessary that prothrombin comes in closer proximity to these two factors. So this gamma carboxy glutamate, by strongly chelating to calcium, helps prothrombin anchor to the phospholipids of the membrane at the site of the wound, at the site of the cut, or at the site of the incision. And thereby, it brings prothrombin in closer proximity to factor 10A and factor 5A and facilitates its conversion to thrombin. And that is why vitamin K is so important. So what is the role of vitamin K in clotting? If this kind of question comes, so you should be able to explain that vitamin K dependent enzyme system is responsible for converting glutamate to gamma carboxy glutamate. Okay, this is the structure of glutamate. There is an addition of one carboxyl group, one negative charge, it becomes gamma carboxy glutamate. There are successive 10, what you can say, residues of glutamate in the structure of the prothrombin. This is amino acid number 1, N terminus. This is amino acid number 582, C terminus. So here there are 10 of them, and all of them have been converted to gamma carboxyglutamate. So as a result of that, if I have to draw it pictorially for you, it becomes a strong anchor. It creates hooks like this, so that this prothrombin can anchor to the phospholipids of the membranes at the site of the wound. And that is how this prothrombin is brought closer to factor 10A and factor 5A, so that it can be converted to thrombin. So this is the biochemistry of conversion of prothrombin to thrombin, one, and second, the role of vitamin K in the clotting process. Okay, so this is stage 2 of the clotting. What is the stage 3 of the clotting? Stage 3 of the clotting, is conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin clot. And this stage, it is made up of 3 substages. There is one called fibrinogen to fibrin monomer. It is proteolysis. Then you have stage 2, substage 2, where you have fibrin monomer getting polymerized to fibrin polymer. This is spontaneous. And then substage C, where you have fibrin polymer which is soluble getting converted to fibrin polymer insoluble. It is called as clot. This is the only visible reaction, and this is an enzyme catalyzed reaction, transglutamination reaction. So that I'll be explaining it to you. Right. So let us see something about fibrinogen in the first place. Okay, what is fibrinogen? So fibrinogen, it's a major plasma protein. So when we have discussed composition of plasma, we found out that there are 3 types of proteins: albumin, then globulin, and the third one is fibrinogen. It's a major protein because its concentration in the plasma is very high, 4 milligram per ml. 4 milligram per ml. It is the concentration of fibrinogen into blood plasma, right? And its molecular mass is around 330 kilodalton. 330 kilodalton is the molecular mass. Structurally, it is made up of 3 globular heads. Joined by 2 rods. And in the rods, the structure is triple helical coiled coil. Right? The composition wise, it is made up of 3 types of subunits. There are 2 alpha, there are 2 beta, and there are 2 gamma. In addition to the 3 subunits, it has got 2 fibrinopeptides, rather 4 fibrinopeptides, 2 of them A fibrinopeptide. There are 2 A fibrinopeptides and there are 2 B fibrinopeptides. 2 A fibrinopeptide is made up of 18 amino acid, and B fibrinopeptide is made up of 20 amino acid. These are called as fibrinopeptides. So structurally, you can write it down like this also: alpha, beta, gamma twice, like this. But for the sake of understanding that A fibrinopeptide is associated with alpha and B fibrinopeptide is associated with beta, I have written it like this, right? There are two alpha subunits and attached to them is A fibrinopeptides. There are two beta subunits, attached to them are two B fibrinopeptides, and there are two gamma subunits, right? So A fibrinopeptide is 18 amino acid and B fibrinopeptide is 20 amino acids, right? Let me draw the structure for you so that you can understand it. So this is the structure of a fibrinogen molecule. There are three globular heads, 1, 2, and 3. And these three globular heads are joined by these two rods, right? And in the central globular region, there are 4 fibrinopeptides. 2 of them alpha and 2 of them A peptides and 2 of them B peptides. The one in blue are A and one in orange are B peptides. Now you know A are associated with alpha subunit and B are associated with beta subunit, and both of them are attached to their respective subunits in the central globular region. So this is the structure of fibrinogen molecule, right? 330 kilodalton, 3 different types of subunits, 2 different types of fibrinopeptides, right? Now what happens? Thrombin, it hydrolyzes 4 arginine glycine bonds in the central globular region. Okay, so thereby it cleaves, it liberates 2 A fibrinopeptides and 2 B fibrinopeptides. So if I have to draw the structure, so fibrinopeptides from the central globular region will be freed because of the hydrolysis of 4 arginine glycine bonds. And you have this fibrinogen molecule, which is alpha, beta, gamma twice. Fibrinopeptides have been freed. These two fibrinopeptides, what was found out is that they are rich in negatively charged amino acids. So you know what are the negatively charged amino acids? They are rich in aspartic acid, they are rich in glutamic acid, and there is one unusual amino acid which is present in them, is particularly in fibrinopeptide B, is tyrosine O sulfate. So this is also negatively charged. So because of the presence of fibrinopeptides, the whole fibrinogen molecule, it has got a net negative charge. Right? Because of the fibrinopeptides, the whole fibrinogen molecule has a net negative charge. And as a result of that, individual fibrinogen molecules, they cannot come closer to each other. They remain separated because of the repulsion. each fibrinogen molecule is negatively charged, and negative charge, they will repel each other. So because of the repulsion, these fibrinogen molecules, individual fibrinogen molecules in your blood, under normal circumstances, they do not come closer to each other. But when fibrinopeptides have been freed by thrombin, okay, now it doesn't have a negative charge, right? The surface charge density pattern of the fibrinogen molecule has changed, and now individual fibrinogen molecules can come closer to each other. Like this. So they will form a network. They will form a mesh-like structure. Spontaneously, they will come closer to each other because that surface charge density pattern has undergone a change. The negative charges have been removed. Negative charges in the form of fibrinopeptides have been removed. So now these molecules can come closer to each other, and they will form this kind of a mesh-like structure. Like this. Okay. So now this is the substage 2. This is called as polymerization, which is spontaneous. This is how it takes place spontaneously. It doesn't require any help. As soon as these A and B peptides have been removed, surface charge density pattern changes, and individual fibrin molecules, monomers, they will come closer to each other, and they will join spontaneously because they don't have a negative charge now. But still, it is soluble. It is soluble because of the flow of the liquid, that is blood. These individual monomers can be separated from one another. Okay, so mechanical strength has to be provided, and this is provided by factor 13A. Factor 13A does what? It creates amide bonds. It creates amide bonds between it catalyzes formation of amide bond between the side chain of amino acid lysine and amino acid glutamic acid. Of individual monomers. So glutamic acid of this monomer and lysine of this monomer, lysine of this monomer and glutamic acid of this monomer, between them an amide bond is formed in presence of factor 13A. 13A is a transglutaminase. Okay, so this kind of cross-linking will take place, and it will provide that mechanical strength or rigidity to this whole structure. This becomes a clot. Into these clots, into this mesh, blood cells, debris, they will get clogged. They will get, clogged like this, forming a effective cap at the site of the wound, so that blood will not stop oozing out. So all of us must have seen this kind of a phenomenon taking place at home also. In the sink, you find that that outlet, if it is clogged by small particulate matter from the kitchen waste, or in the bathroom also, if you see, so blood will stop flowing, or the flow of the flow of water will stop flowing, or the flow of water decreases. As soon as you remove that, water starts flowing quickly. Something like that kind of structure, a biochemical structure made up of fine mesh of fibrin monomers, fine mesh of fibrin polymers, you can say, joined together by amide bonds between the individual monomers, catalyzed by factor 13A, is found at the mouth of the wound, and that will provide that mechanical strength. And debris, cell debris, cells, they will sit in between the space, forming a almost impermeable clot at the mouth of the wound. So this is how blood clotting, formation of clot at the wound site takes place. This is the biochemistry of conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin. Stage 1 is proteolysis, where you have these 4 arginine glycine bonds in the central globular region getting cleaved, liberating 2 alpha and 2 beta peptides. These 2 alpha and beta, 2 A and B peptides. So these 2 A and B peptides are rich in negatively charged amino acid, aspartic acid, glutamic acid, and tyrosinosulfate. And because of their presence, this fibrin structure, it has got a negative charge, but as soon as they are removed, the surface charge density pattern changes, and individual fibrin monomers, they will come spontaneously closer to each other, forming this kind of a extensive mesh like structure. Mesh like मतलब जैसा अपना चाय का सी होता है ना, and in between them, whatever space is there, it will be occupied by these cells, cell debris. So it will form a clot, through which at the mouth of the wound this kind of structure will be formed, so blood will stop flowing out, right? So this is stage 1, sub-stage 1 proteolysis. Then this stage number 2, spontaneously they will come closer to each other, and sub-stage number 3, formation of these bonds, substage number 3, like this. So this is the biochemistry of conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin, and that is how clot formation takes place. So you have stage 1, generation of prothrombin activator. So we have seen how this prothrombin activator PTA is generated. Stage 2, you have conversion of prothrombin to thrombin in presence of prothrombin activator. And stage 3, you have conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin clot in presence of thrombin. All right. So this is how this clotting takes place. And as I said, again, you can see there is a cascade here, so that even if there is a small trigger, you generate a massive response. So as I said earlier, any breach of physical integrity of the BVS, it's a closed system. So BVS is a closed system. Any breach, any break, anywhere, it is taken, small or big, it is taken as a priority. It is taken as an emergency, because you have only limited amount of blood, 5 liters. So if blood continues to flow out, you will be very soon fall short of blood, and blood is very vital. If there is excessive loss of blood, person can die, right? It can have serious consequences. So any small or big breach in the integrity of the BVS is taken as a top priority, as an emergency in the body, and immediately a clot will be formed. So I think we'll stop here. We'll take another lecture, a small lecture tomorrow, which will conclude this clotting.